In this video, we will be digitally painting in Photoshop. We will address landscape painting, depth and lighting in Photoshop, value, tone, as well as color in digital painting. By the end of this video, we will be able to identify and distinguish between background, middle ground, and foreground inside of Photoshop digital painting. I have additionally added a link here to behance.net, a live channel specifically for Adobe Photoshop. I urge you to check this particular website out and view any and all previous live videos of digital artists painting inside of Adobe Photoshop. When we look at depth and lighting in Photoshop, we consider the fact that depth is a measure of distance. This measurement is a given inside of 3D art. The term Z-depth must be familiar to you by now. But in 2D painting or 2D animation, 2D art, depth is an illusion. It is something that we as 2D artists must create. It is not given to us as it is in 3D. To create the illusion of 2D depth, we consider atmosphere, we consider light, we consider value and tone, perspective and scale. There are many other considerations that come into place. But for now, I want you to focus on those four, as I will be referring to them repeatedly. Before we begin actually painting, I want you to get into the habit of researching. Find images, movies, videos that you would consider as useful resources, even inspiration for your paintings. First, let's look at resources. I would urge you to find open source images, and there's plenty of online open source image resources. Websites that host or house free images that do not require a particular license or fee. Additionally, you can take photos yourself and use them as a resource to paint. And as another option, you can contact the creator of a particular photo and ask them whether you can use their image for your painting resource. As a student, you would find that plenty of people are willing to give you the opportunity to use their images. After all, you would rarely be using them for commercial purposes as a student. So this is an image that I have requested from a content creator to use for my digital painting. And here I have a series of digital paintings from an existing animation. The animation is called Kimi no Nawa from 2016. It was released in the year 2016. The director is Makoto Shinkai. He's an amazing animator, digital artist, painter, writer, as well as voiceover artist. As I scroll through, you can see the various images that are part of this particular film. Not only is the movie enjoyable, but it is very aesthetically pleasing. So with that in mind, once you have an understanding of what you're about to achieve, in terms of digital painting, and you additionally have your resource image, even some inspirational images, we can proceed. Inside of Photoshop, I've already began the process of my digital painting. I started off with a sketch, which is based off of my resource image. So far, I doubt that there's anything on this stage that is alien to anybody. But allow me to explain and expound a few things. First, I want to direct your attention to the size of this document. Its width is 2,560. Its height is 1,440. It has 3 channels RGB at 8 bits, and the resolution is 300 pixels per inch. I chose RGB channels as this will eventually be a web or digital painting. If I wanted to use it for print, I would have changed the image channel to CYMK. But this is going for web, it's going to be digital, so RGB is best. Secondly, looking at this image, we're going to start from the top right. I inserted my resource image and placed it somewhere that doesn't really obscure. I just resized it, tucked it away in a corner. There it is. Just to use it as a reference for my sketch. Beyond that, I have a number of lines here which are indicative of the horizon, where my cursor is hovering over. That bold red line is my horizon line, and where all of these several lines meet is my vanishing point. I have a single vanishing point, which translates to a 1-point perspective drawing. And now onto the sketch. My sketch is simple, but it's detailed enough for the purpose of painting. I didn't see the need of going the extra step and creating extra renderings such as shadows, for example, cross hatchings. I didn't see the need of going that far. That would be irrelevant. I only required the outline of forms inside of my painting. For those of you who are already experienced with painting, which I assume is most of you by now, you know that you need not give too much detail when you're sketching, because you will in fact be loading details using color. That's the process of painting. And lastly, I just have a white background. So the first thing I want to change is my background. I don't ever want to paint on pure white, because I will end up doing so much work to create atmosphere afterwards. Whenever I paint, I start off by creating a BG gradient layer. It is in this layer that I will create the light source position and all of the hues, well, base hues of my sky, ground, even some of the foreground objects. That will all go inside of this BG gradient. Once more, enabling my resource image, I'm going to access my gradient tool. Right now it's on my paint bucket tool. I can click Shift and G until I finally get my gradient tool. Let's jump into the gradient editor. I already have my colors in place, but in the event you do not, you would select a color stop, click on a color, And by default, when you hover outside of the parameters of the gradient editor, you get the eyedropper. This eyedropper can then hover over your resource image, and then it selects a color. And that's how it's done. You can, in the event it's needed, add yet more stops. These are called color stops. And have a more detailed gradient. I don't need as many color stops. Just 2 will be fine for now. And select OK. Making sure that my BG gradient is under my sketch layer. The sequence of these layers, or the order of them, is very, very important. While I'm doing this, I'm considering where my light source is, where my horizon is. For whatever reason, if I'm dissatisfied with my gradient, I can go into the settings and then change the position, or as it's known, the location of my midpoint. Being very careful not to create a new stop. Can change that, maybe 40 or 41%. I try again. Okay, that's a bit better. Bearing in mind at this point I have in fact studied my resource image quite a bit. It's not just by chance that I have this particular image in place, or this gradient in place rather. Beyond the gradient, you would start blocking in what's known as value passes. There's many ways of, there's many terms that artists use for this, but I call them value passes because they are in fact just different values of gray. I often start from the extreme background moving forward. EBG is my acronym for extreme background. Again, this is going to be underneath the sketch. Now, with the extreme background, you must understand it will have the lightest value of gray. Objects in the background are lighter or appear lighter than objects in the foreground, which are darker or darkest. Using my brush tool, I will toggle between them until I find one that I like. This is good. And then I will change my value from its extreme black to something a bit lighter in value. 70, 70, 70 with a brightness of 44. You can keep those values in mind because you will be incrementally adding on to them. I like this brush because it has transfer properties in place. Not only that, this brush additionally has the capacity to tilt. As you can see, the shape keeps tilting as I move my stylus. So you can consider it to be very ergonomic. Alright, at this point I will make use of the lasso tool. Then I bring in my paint bucket tool. There we go. Double click a couple of times just to make sure that all of the areas are filled out, even those pesky blank spaces. And there I have it, my first value pass. I can disable the background just to check it out. And if need be, I can add more. Then I disable my sketch and I check it out. I'm actually satisfied with this. The reason is I don't expect to have such perfect and clean and smooth edges when we are considering a mountainscape. It's supposed to be rough. It's supposed to be uneven. It's supposed to be jagged. And if you look at my resource image, that's what mountains are. Jagged, uneven, and above all, very, very blurred. Eventually, when we create more and more detail for this painting, you will hardly see the jagged and rough edges. So I don't feel like I need to create so much information or give so much time towards my mountainscape. Because one, the nature of the actual mountainscape, two, the distance from the viewer. On to the next. We have the actual background, which will be on top of the extreme background. And it will have a darker value, meaning less brightness. It's here that I can start with my lasso tool because it is in fact quite a large bit of painting. There is one omission that was made in my background. This tree right here. I have to include that inside of my value pass, as it will make an impact on my future painting. So I would simply go into my brush tool, maybe make it a bit smaller, and just create a rough silhouette of a tree. It need not be perfect, it just needs to exist, really, and be in the same rough position. As a rough estimate, that's good for now. Okay, we're making good progress. Next is the middle ground. It is at this point we need to be a bit more exacting, because there's a number of things here that require some precision.